Last time on CIP.
Cosmic gag reel.
Or you could be really nefarious and go after the orphanages.
Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven, is that it?
No, we're going to, turn her and make her one of us.
In the story.
Call in like February or March. So
Yeah.
Well, we will have a world-ending asteroid. It is on the books. It may be a million years in the future, but it will happen scientifically. You're welcome.
Yay.
I'll be dead in a couple decades, so it's all good.
We'll be dead, but just in case you were wondering.
Yeah, in case you were wondering. But by the way, that last week was supposed to be the darkest episode. Apparently, I misspoke. This week will definitely be the darkest episode.
Oh,
ever. You can tell already.
Yeah, well, you see all those memes going around on the internet, how, if 2020 was a book, nobody would believe it. Seriously, if you think about it, if you had gone back to somebody in 2012 and given them a movie script with all of the events that occurred in 2020, even if you do half of the events, they would look at you and go, this is stupid and insane and will never happen.
Mm-hmm.
And you will go, oh, my sweet summer child.
Yeah.
And just wait.
Just wait. And that's so funny, doing these, obviously talking about horror movies, and even this story right here, starring Meredith as herself in the role she was meant to play. It's like, this seems like child's play compared to walking out your door.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And I really want to know what happened with the Murder Hornets B plot. That just kind of disappeared. And, it was there. And then just went away.
Oh, they're still there. They're just hiding.
Oh.
They're waiting for you to move to Japan and kill you.
Oh, God.
I actually saw something. I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before, and it looked like these guys in spacesuits out in the woods in Oregon, and they were they were out there with the smoke and everything, putting them to sleep and harvesting all of these murder hornets. So I was just like, wow, okay.
I saw that too, and I was like, oh my gosh, this looks like a real sci-fi movie. But you're right though, the fact that they were actually catching them as opposed to just putting them down. You're playing with Hammond from from Jurassic Park. It's you shouldn't be meddling with powers of God.
That shit's coming back to haunt us. Let me tell you, it is just going to be just throw it on the pile with the rest of the background tension.
2020.
2020.
With how we've antagonized so much over the years, we've confirmed our own deaths 20 times over.
Yeah, literally. That's why it's called 2020. It's been done twice.
Yes. There's one guaranteed thing that's going to happen. We're all going to die.
Yes.
We definitely will.
Death in Texas.
On those lovely notes, thanks, Meredith, for coming back onto the show.
My pleasure. It's going to be delicious.
Oh, too soon. Too soon. Way too soon. For those of you who don't know, so for those of you who don't know, this show, or this particular episode, the story we did the last time was all about how a priestess was harvesting the organs from people to stay young forever, essentially. And she'd been doing it for thousands of years. And her organs of choice came from children. Small, young, beautiful, innocent children. So
we don't need the modifiers, Ethan. What are you?
Fine. They're tall, ugly ass, dumb children.
That's better.
That's it. They're from children, but they're just from the ugly ones. That's
Right. You won't mind. You don't mind them dying. I promise. We're all going to hell a lot.
They're just that much tender.
Oh my!
Those tender
devastation that makes them tender.
Those tender spirits, gotta love them.
I do wonder if your if your appearance has anything to do with your tenderness, if you're really just busted, if you're extremely tender.
Well, I would imagine it's. I can't believe we're talking about this, but I would imagine it's with the. With a cow and a chicken and or like rabbits. Rabbits tend to be gamey. I guess gamey.
That's
what does
true.
that mean? I know. But I guess it kind of fits like that.
It does. We went down this path. We went down it all
you
together.
Took us.
We all went down it.
There's no way to know until we actually eat a human child.
Oh God!
No. All right. We have to. This train already crashed. We have to find a way to at least get off it.
Anybody who's done any kind of cooking knows that you take one of those meat tenderizers and you whack the heck out of it until it's nice and tender, and then you cook it up, and it's so.
It is.
You're a mother. You're a mother. You're a mother of beautiful children.
Excuse me.
And
FBI.
FBI, open up.
My children survived me, all right?
I hope. I don't know. This story is based off of your life. So as we mercifully dive into Act 2 of our story, we were talking about more or less, because obviously we're going from where after Meredith hires the assistant, and we, I guess, need to figure out some way to have the reveal to Pat, her assistant, as to what Meredith does, or kind of either have her witness someone getting their organs, ripped out of their body, or witness Meredith eating someone, or something along those lines. What do you guys have in store?
Well, we can't just have it be that Pat accidentally walks in on her in her office, and Meredith turns around and is like, got her face all covered in blood. That would be too easy. Surely.
Fair.
Yeah. I think it needs to be more subtle. Like there can be the gore and everything like in other parts, but I think the actual reveal should be. I like the idea of the reveal being something that's very. Like you can see it going on in Pat's head, like she's seeing things and she's putting them together, and she's doing the math equation, and then it's like, oh God, and then the and then here's the harvesting, and here's the whatever or what have you.
Right.
Speaking of eating human remains, I'm into the idea of it being kind of like the Hannibal reveal, where she's putting it together based on context clues. And it all comes to a culmination where she's not there's no confrontation necessarily. When she figures it out, she just figures it out and is like, oh. And then she knows. And then for a short time, Meredith doesn't know that she knows yet.
Right.
That would be interesting. That would be interesting.
Yeah,
Ari said it's coming to a head.
Working your way
round,
to that.
supple, juicy, tender head. I like that. I like that idea too. Because obviously, if we're establishing that Pat is an intelligent person already, she's already scheming these things. It makes sense, and also for approaching from the story from her perspective on some level. That could definitely work, because she's also, if Pat is also our avatar, if we the audience don't know what Meredith is doing either, so we're kind of putting two and two together as Pat is. So as things seem weirder and weirder, and more, and the people that work in this building are doing more and more suspicious things, and Pat's observing this, we're also kind of like putting two and two together alongside her.
Well, if you think of it kind of like maybe like a clinical setting, where it's they're like kind of draining the blood, so you're just seeing like the tubes and stuff like that, and this maybe purplish liquid or whatever. And then maybe Pat is just, she hears something, and maybe it's like the cleaning lady who's like taking out the bones or the corpses or whatever, So basically, if you think of it like a hospital, like going down into the basement to the morgue area, and maybe she discovers things and I don't know, something like that. I'm thinking kind of clinical, so it kind of sneaks up on you, where you're like, oh, this is legit.
And she gets suspicious, but there's no way she's going to be able to get in there unless she sneaks in. So she pretends to be one of the lab assistants or workers or something.
Yes,
and then
we have to do
just way into it.
Yes, I love that idea. I really do. But we have to do is even if she does kind of sneak into a place, start seeing some of these things. I'm just seeing a moment where she has to kind of try to hide away from the security or someone that's walking in the building, and either she jumps into like one of those like laundry baskets, so essentially that gets pushed around. And when she's in there, she like is like feeling around in the actual basket, and she either feels bones or feels some like viscous or some kind of actual like human material, but she doesn't know what it is exactly, because again we're keeping it somewhat subtle. So she just knows that it feels really weird and smells really weird, and she may even see some name tags or something, and she's like, "This is what's going on." It almost seems too weird to be true.
Well, I think one thing I really like that idea, and having her jump in there, and it be dark, and she can't see what's happening, can't see, can't, and it's just essentially by feel.
Yeah.
Successfully gets out, successfully, runs and gets away, and when she gets into the light, she looks at her clothing, and it's all covered in blood.
Right, it's red.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's great. That's creepy. Love it.
It's very that's very creepy.
Yeah, you know what? Because it kind of reminds me. I don't know if you guys ever did this, like the old Halloween games and stuff, where you're blindfolded and you had to put your hand in the basket, in the bowls of whatever, and it's like peeled grapes. It's like, oh, those could be eyeballs, and things like that. So it's like your mind trying to make sense of what it is that you're feeling. You just don't know, and your mind just doesn't want to go there. So that is really cool. Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and have it be like the oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry,
you had a creeper. I was like, watch out, Ethan! There's somebody behind you.
It did scare me. That's the problem. I was a little like, what the fuck is going on? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This. Well, you've won, Meredith. You've won. That broke me. That broke me a bit.
What was funny is I was almost like, Ethan, get out of the house. The call's coming from inside. But yeah, I saw your door open. I was like, oh shit, should I put it away? Should I shoot away from you or not? I don't know.
The best part was it's my lovely, wonderful roommate. But she was in the dark, moving really slow with a black mask on too. So as I turned around, all I saw was this prowler in a black mask. Like, I'm gonna die. I deserve this. This was supposed to happen. I was talking about killing kids for an hour. I should die. Why am I still alive? So, so I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disrupt the whole flow. I'm sorry.
That's totally fine. Oh God, I love it. So yes, dead bodies in a laundry cart,
right,
and discovering it via blood.
Right. We could also introduce the idea that she is it may not be clear to the assistant exactly what the company does or what the company makes or what have you. So she may be kind of asking these questions to different employees that work there, or to Meredith herself. And it kind of just continually seems kind of ominous as to what exactly is going on. And no one's giving her almost like a Stepford Wives kind of thing, where it almost seems like a weird kind of cultish attitude that she can't quite penetrate. And that she is almost like, it may turn that she actually is getting more curious. And so she's making deliberate, as opposed to being a passive or reactive protagonist. She is she's deliberately kind of snooping around, trying to figure things out. And so we're seeing this world through her eyes. So we want to know too, as it builds up more and more.
I think it would be interesting, and something like this can be dropped in using like little clues here and there, and that is having something, because we had mentioned about like the homeless, that sort of thing, being part of this as well. I think it would be interesting in the story if there's a little bit of the fact that everybody's talking about how great for the last couple of generations that like the city has been cleaned up. It used to be a hellhole, but now it's been cleaned up, and there's, you used to see homeless people in the corner all the time, and now you don't, and all that kind of thing. And something maybe that Pat can notice is they come in, but nobody comes out. And that might be what clues her in. And then she comes to find that this corporation was almost basically like this like the CEO's deal with the devil, or maybe she's the devil. The government made the deal with her to basically be like, oh, you can get rid of the homeless people. We don't care how, but you just go ahead and do that. I think that would be an interesting thing.
Too topical.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's even darker. If the government is almost somewhat complicit in what Meredith and her corporation or the company called Juicy Babies, what they're doing, essentially, as far as like, look, we'll look the other way entirely. We will don't ask, don't tell type of situation with the homeless and like orphanages too. Like Meredith brought up last week, if there's orphans that seem to be misplaced or for whatever reason no one wants to adopt them, all of a sudden they're gone. It's like, oh well, that's fine.
Yeah, because forgotten.
Guess we can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Oh well. Yeah. Exactly.
And maybe it could be a thing where like you know the initial deal makers with it were like obviously like they were the real evil fucks, but then it kind of became like there were other politicians that maybe came after, like other leadership that has come after that wouldn't have been okay with it, but they don't know about it, and also there's no problem, so they don't chase it down. And I think oh good. Sorry.
No, based on what you just said right there, other politicians come in at it or whatnot, but then all of a sudden they go missing too.
That'd be interesting, yeah.
And it could be that could be one thing. One big tip off is essentially that when Pat is looking around doing her snooping and everything, and a politician that was really up in arms and seemed to be really making headway against one of the politicians that's backing Meredith and her corporation, maybe even been getting ready to win an election against that politician. When that politician themselves goes missing, and that politician's name, like Ronald Bump or something like that. That this person's going up against, and then all of a sudden this other politician, Mo Frieden, goes missing, and she sees the name tag that says Mo Frieden in the laundry basket or what have you. It's kind of like, wait a minute, that's clearly this is I found the body.
That could also be a tip off, like because she's the assistant and everything, so she's got Meredith's ear. And so she knows what the schedule is as far as appointments and things like that, and the guy goes missing and stuff. She's trying to tell her concerns. Pat's trying to tell her concerns to Meredith, and she doesn't seem at all fazed. So she's kind of curious about that. Like, why are you not concerned about this? This guy's a bigwig. He's kind of a big deal.
Yes, exactly. And that's that's a good point. It's a big tell. But it doesn't matter how weird things get and how much Pat tries to continue to bring it to Meredith's attention, because as far as we know, Meredith is an innocent person. And we can, again, repeating the picture that Meredith is a genuine person. She seems decent through and through up until the very end, essentially, until the twist, more or less. So yeah, that's a good idea.
Maybe it's like she does appear to be like, oh no, that's terrible. Wow, I didn't even realize. And then she does like nothing about it.
Right.
Just so that, it sort of takes the suspicion off of her.
Or like that sarcasm, just that blasé, like, oh dear, that's terrible,
yes.
And not really sincere.
Right. Yeah. It's she almost seems. I guess that could be it too, is that because we talked before about how Pat in and of herself is obviously a bit of a conniving person, because she's going to be trying to backstab Meredith eventually. She's trying to usurp her herself anyways. And it could be that Pat realizes that essentially Meredith is lying, that Meredith isn't what might fool someone else. Game recognizes game, and Pat can tell that Meredith is disingenuous. Something's off about her too. And that kind of tips her off as well, early on.
I love that twisty thing where they're all like twisted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's that's my jam. That is my brand. I love it.
And speaking of them all being twisted, we also talked about last time, one of my favorite points of the story is how they do fall in love with each other. How Pat and Meredith do, or at least seemingly on some level. And Meredith is at least infatuated enough with Pat that she does reveal what's going on to her, and how she wants to, of course, make it her, as opposed to just assistant. She pretty much wants her to be her heir, or at least her co-queen in rule of the empire or whatnot. Have we talked about how they fall in love with each other, or any kind of things like? I mean, you can kind of get into that a bit, possibly too, as far as what maybe something they do.
Well, well, since this is dark, I kind of like the idea of it because it sort of becomes like an interest that evolves into an obsession. I don't know on whose side necessarily, because it could work for either way.
Mhm.
If Meredith becomes obsessed with Pat or Pat becomes obsessed with Meredith, because I mean, pretty immediately their circles overlap with each other.
Right.
Yeah. And the thing that popped into my head was more like a seduction that maybe accidentally becomes an obsession. Like you didn't intend for it to happen, but all of a sudden it's like, I must have her. And I don't know, maybe it's so the power player, I would assume at the beginning is Meredith. So if she's like seducing just for the sake of, she's bored or whatever, but then Pat is very interesting all of a sudden, and so why? What is that compelling thing? And maybe she begins to obsess. And so from that point, she really loses clarity as far as, she doesn't see what Pat's doing.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
And she's kind of blinded by that because of her obsession.
Yeah.
And then
Pat is like,
have to be that.
I see an opening for myself to sort of make her a little bit more dependent on me, but we don't know that until the end.
Yeah.
Right. So one thing I thought of too, as you guys were both, Meredith and Ari, you guys were both speaking, is one thing could be that once essentially you can even have the biggest reveal is when Pat more or less deduces enough that something horrible is going on. She may even have blood on her, actually has blood on her face or whatnot, and she confronts Meredith. And she's like, "This, I know what's going on. I don't, or what's going on. Tell me something's going on here. I have no idea what it is. This is horrible." And she still has the blood on her, and Meredith takes her hand and pretty much walks her into some kind of a room to reveal something, which should terrify her or creep her out essentially. And instead, Pat just like slowly smiles and says, "This is amazing," or something like that. And by her having that turn, it really makes Meredith that much more infatuated with her. And then actually they kiss with all the blood on their face. They actually exchange a kiss there, a dirty, nasty, bloody kiss.
What about like a bathtub of blood?
Oh wow!
Wow! I was running, and you got in the plane and flew. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, because if she's like, "Come here, I want to show you something," and she pulls her in. So, I mean, if you imagine a room with like one of those walk-in tubs that's just full of blood, but mirrors all over and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, wait. Okay, come on this journey with me. Right. So they go into this room, and it is like a room full of horrors, possibly a bathtub of blood, possibly bodies and organs and stuff. And Meredith like leaves Pat just to stand there and like goes over to one of the displays and or the bathtub and gets her hands dirty or something like that, or shows her physically what it is that she's doing, or maybe she eats something in front of her. And then she goes back over Meredith. And it's kind of like, it's a little threatening because Meredith still doesn't know if Pat is like on her side. So the implication is like, if you're not cool with this, I'm gonna eat you or something.
Right.
Then Pat is like, she smiles and is like, "Oh, this is amazing." And then Meredith cups her face and leaves this bloody handprint on her cheek, and then they kiss.
Yeah. Right.
So I like that.
And even
It's like
right before that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, because even right before that, the forbidden fruit, she actually, while Meredith is still holding the actual child's organ or whatnot in her hand, and Pat's saying this is amazing, and then Pat actually takes a bite herself, and then they start putting hands. And almost they're eating and kissing, and it's very arousing
it's almost
and
like,
disturbing.
Right, and at the same time, you don't know whether or not Pat was maybe compelled, hypnotized or something like that. So I mean, you can almost argue that, although you probably don't need to.
Yeah.
No. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nate. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, especially with the bathtub of blood, you're making me think of Elizabeth Bathory,
Yeah.
who is like one of the original serial killers. You know, so like, in fact, I'm kind of thinking we should rename the main CEO Elizabeth, just for reasons.
I love it because I love Elizabeth Bathory's story.
Yeah, like call her Liz.
Sure.
Just call her Liz.
Call her Liz.
And it's a little subtle thing that nobody thinks about, and then you realize, oh, her name's Elizabeth. Maybe even, like, hell, if we wanted to go that route, we could even maybe make her Elizabeth Bathory and make her like, it's kind of like a, you know, thing where she's actually the Elizabeth Bathory. Like, maybe that's
right. Yeah. Or the company's named Bathory or something like that. Some kind of way to actually tie the two. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's. I love that Easter egg of an actual bath read that they're getting the blood out of, kind of thing. Yeah, right on. Okay, that is disturbing, but I love it.
Hell yeah.
I love it all. Another thing I like too is the idea that it's. I'm guessing the audience would at least expect, hopefully on some level, they'd expect Pat when she sees what Liz, like when she's like. Trying to convince Liz that something horrible is going on. She doesn't know what this is, and she wants her to confess everything to her. The audience would think that when Liz shows her what's actually happening, that she'll pretty much freak out or run away or something. There'll become a bigger confrontation or a fight or whatever. And instead, it'll be a twist as far as that Pat is into it. And Pat, again, like you said, she eats the forbidden fruit as well. That'd be like a what the kind of a Tyler Durden type of moment. Too. And then so we'll see there should be a turn there as we get into Act 3, as now they look like a couple. They're literally a power couple. How now Pat is dressing essentially like the priestess herself, the high-ranking Egyptian priestess herself. How the two of them are always together, smiling like a couple does when they first get together, kind of thing. It looks very much like they look harmonious. It looks almost, bizarrely enough, they look cute together. That way, when the twist comes at the end, when Pat does slash Liz's throat, it's like, wait a minute, we didn't see that coming. That twist kind of so catches off guard.
Yes.
Delicious.
Like, this is specifically catered to me and my interests, and I'm sad that it doesn't exist as a.
You're sad that it doesn't exist.
Well, that's a funny bit. Is every time Ethan talks about, like, you can see it in his face when he says when she eats the organ, like, it just, you can almost see the disgust on his face while he tries to say the.
I mean, you can see my face,
in your head, and you're like, no, I don't want to see this in my head.
The best part is that these characters are always drawing it. For those of you who can't see on the actual stream or whatnot, these characters, these women, are genuinely beautiful, and the thought that in real life there could be beautiful women out there that are doing this kind of stuff is just, I don't know if I'm aroused or.
Okay, so the difference is, if this was real, that would be bad. That'd be very bad. Really not great. However, in the beautiful, wonderful realm of fiction, where sexy ladies can make out in blood baths.
And hey, Ethan, remember, no king shame. No king shame.
Fair. That I apologize, Nate. I apologize. That is literally our one motto. No king shame, and I broke it. I apologize.
Hey, you don't have to be into it. That's all. You know, that's totally fine.
Fair.
But so my question is, so we've established, I think we've established an interesting Act 1 and Act 2, but there's one slight thing, and I'm wondering how we're going to do it. Is by having that turn be that that Pat is into it, we kind of nuke the conflict, which is, is Pat's going to make it out? Is she going to be? And it's like, oh no, she's joined it. So what is Act 3 going to be? Like, what's the conflict there?
So what I thought about that, it'd be essentially the other politicians or other people, because essentially we could also have the idea that Pat was trying to get anyone to notice that something was going on. She was almost a whistleblower against the company. And by doing this, like, for example, we already have it set up that there's another politician, that Mo Smyden, whatever his name was, that gets killed off. That there's other people that are aware that something hinky is going on at Juicy Babies, or Bathory, whatever we call it now, that company. So it could be that they're still after
Well, what if? Oh, sorry.
What
go ahead.
about? What about? So Pat reacts to what's happening the way she does, but what if we as the audience are still unsure if she's like lying or making a play to try and survive?
That's
And then like the next act is a little bit blurry in that we're not sure if we should root for her because she seems like she's playing both sides.
Well, from last week, there was a third character, a third archetype, which was a pioneer. What if it was kind of like a love triangle?
How so?
If you're saying, what if what if Pat had a lover before already?
Or this person, the pioneer. I don't know if we had developed that character at all, but if he was somehow whether he was a detective or something, I don't know how that would fit in, but it would almost be like a good versus evil,
Yes.
And so Pat is between the pioneer and Liz.
Yes.
You see what I mean?
What if?
Oh, I see Nate.
Yeah,
he's thinking.
I had a thought, little thought. What if we can play into a little bit of both with the governmental thing and the Pat and the love triangle spiel? Have it be that the person trying to take down the company is Pat's former lover, and he's a politician, and he's trying to bring the company down, and he sends her in as a plant, as a spy, essentially, to try to gather information. She gathers information. There's the turn, and then there's a big question at that point of like, okay, is she okay? Oh, she's playing along so she can get as much as she can to try to really take this whole thing down. And then there's the final ending, and maybe in the final ending, when she kills the CEO, the former lover is there too, and she kills him too.
Yes.
I'm 100%. I'm 100% on board with this, but it's a little bit of the delivery is a little different. So the idea that you're right that she's playing both sides. So she's playing the pioneer, the politician guy. She's like, oh, I found something big, something you won't believe. Come to the. You have to see it to believe. If I tell you, you won't understand how crazy it is. He comes there, and then basically once he's inside the corporation, the Bathory Corporation, what have you, he gets his throat slit or whatnot, like you mentioned already. And then we see both of them standing there in front of him, and he realizes, oh, I've been had. Yeah,
well, and I was thinking we could make it we could make it work where the discovery, because we had mentioned that originally we were going to have the politician go in and that's how she finds out. But I think it could be a mutual acquaintance who's like maybe her handler or something, and he gets disappeared and she finds him, and then the politician can be saved for the ending climax payoff.
Right. The real politician is her. The person she's looking for, or her lover, the other person that she's in love with.
Or another option would be that he didn't have any history with her at all. He's just, because there have been missing bodies, he's like the one detective, the one good guy that is investigating this. And of course, so there's that sexual tension without actually ever being maybe lovers between the pioneer, the detective and Pat.
Right.
But, so there's that tension and stuff, and there's that but he's thinking that she's the in to find out more because he's been investigating for so long, and again, those dead bodies is like, where are all these people disappearing? But then finally, that one politician is like the big name. Is like, we have to do something about this. But I like the idea still of sacrificing him in the end too.
Yeah, I think. So that we don't, cards on the table. I'm not a huge fan of love triangles in the first place. However, I do like the idea of whether or not that she has history with him, that he is also sacrificed, because I want the main focus of this to be on these two women and their dark romance, instead of,
yes,
introducing.
Right. So if he was like the investigator and he's just trying to see what the hell Liz is up to, and he thinks that Pat is his way in, so maybe he is flirtatious or something, to try and get other without actually ever being like lovers or anything like that, but just just that tension,
sexual tension.
It would be really interesting if he was like to add to the the theme of this story, where he was also being really manipulative and using his like wiles to try and seduce her, and thinking that he's done it, except not so much.
That's exactly what I was going to go to. I was like, the whole idea is both these. But it seems like both these sides, both the investigator represents good, and Liz represents bad, what have you. And it turns out the real true power player is the one in the middle that we've all been both of them have been underestimating, which is Pat. And she actually, of course, overthrows both of them. One thing I wanted to make, another note I wanted to make though, is what if another actual reveal is that it seems like Pat was just a regular mild mannered, a person meant to be an assistant, but in fact she is already herself is an undercover agent or investigator too. She's also very hungry to actually rise in the ranks at the FBI or the CIA or whatever it is that she's coming from. So that's how she knows the other investigator, that they actually worked together before. So part of the reveal is that she seemingly is a little, I guess, a kind of a more of a hapless, innocent young girl that's trying to be an assistant, but it turns out she's actually a well-trained investigator that's trying to figure out what's going on inside this corporation. And of course, that's what she's giving information to the investigator about this kind of stuff.
I think that might be making a little bit too twisty. I think I like the idea that they worked together before, but maybe she was like some sort of client or something where they know each other, and this like her career trajectory matches what she wants to do in this company, right? So she's not a detective necessarily, but she is like, she's interested for career or personal reasons, and he comes to her, or maybe she goes to him after finding out weird stuff and is like, hey.
Yeah, that can work fine, actually, if she does go to him. Sorry, go ahead, Nate.
I was going to say, I actually really like that. I like the idea of them having, whether they have like an actual, like, ugly bits bumping past or not. I like the idea of her just going to this company naturally. And then I think it would be really interesting if he just shows up and she's like, what the fuck are you doing here? I haven't talked to you in like 5 years. And he's like, something weird's going on at your company. I need your help. And because there's this flirty sexual tension,
that plants the seed.
Yeah. And because there's this flirty tension, you think, oh, okay, so that's the story now. And then when she does the whole like, blood sexy bit with Elizabeth, then we've got like, oh, okay, well, whose side is she on? So like, I like that idea of keeping it kind of, and also we don't get reveal fatigue, which I think is a risk with a story like this.
True. No, you're right. I love your Nate. Your Nate. I do love Nate, but I love your idea, Nate. That the initial plant of that there's something hinky is going on is by this investigator showing up saying, hey, all these misdealings are happening. It's kind of weird. Don't you think it's kind of weird, Pat, that this is happening or whatnot, or people are missing? And Pat's like, what are you talking about? Pat's, of course, at first in denial, doesn't understand it, but it does plant the seed, and that gets the ball rolling as far as Pat starting to think twice about certain things that are happening. And at first, as you said, because they had it passed, she can be that much more skeptical about everything he says. But then she starts to see it for herself, and it gets more things unfold. And then, of course, at the end, you think that it could be that initially, either Liz or one of her other associates is chasing down this investigator as he's running through the halls, trying to like make the big reveal or get outside the building, escape, and kind of blow the top on everything. And then one of them shoots him in the leg or slows him down, or what have you. And he reaches out. He sees Pat, and he's reaching out to Pat, essentially thinking that she would help him. And that's when she kills him. That's when of course she helps him up and then kills him slowly herself, kind of thing. And she may even say, "Who do you think sounded the alarm on you?" kind of thing. So yeah.
Okay. Sounds
good.
Yeah.
So everybody dies except Pat.
That's all. Everyone dies. The bad guy wins. It's beautiful.
I love it.
It really is beautiful.
Well, I like how the bad. One thing I like about this story is how the protagonist really, I think, is kind of Pat-ish. Like we're kind of making that the case, and she turns out to be the bad guy, and I like that.
Yeah,
I like that twist.
Yeah, and we could also plant the seeds too that her ambitions were real. There was no, like you mentioned, there's no double twisted reveal that she is a cop or anything. She actually is a person that's trying to climb the corporate ladder, have her own business. She has. I mean, we can clearly show her apartment. She's a small, shitty apartment that she wants to get out of. She actually is very motivated to better her life. When she sees all these
seduced by power in all of its forms. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And the final image has to be her sitting at the large chair of the corporation, holding the heart of the investigator in one hand and the heart of Liz in the other. And they're both bleeding, and she's smiling ear to ear.
Ethan, I thought I was dark.
You trained me well. You trained me well, master. You trained me well.
Well, that's the thing. I think that should be the last shot for the comic. I think for the movie, it would be a better shot of just her being at the desk and it pulling back.
Yeah, I agree.
Fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
No kink shame. No kink shame.
No, yeah. Well, just saying.
I mean, is that your kink, Ethan? Powerful makes it even here.
Look at the time. I have to go file my laundry.
So, did you just what you're gonna do? What to your laundry? Anyway,
defile it. I'm gonna go defile
it. Okay, so yeah, that I actually think that we wrapped up the story. I don't think there's really much more to do with it, unless there's any other ideas or loose ends that we need to tie up that y'all can think of.
No, I mean, it's my dream movie / comic.
I do want to make this a comic book now. I really, really do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. This is awesome. This is awesome. I mean, okay. I think this is a very fitting story for Halloween. This is by far the darkest story we've ever come up with.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever done horror before, because this is essentially horror,
like
I don't think we've done
horror.
horror.
It's more action adventure horror and not like psychological thriller horror.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, we had stories with monsters. We had stories with literal monsters in them that are nowhere near as dark as this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I love that. This is great.
Yeah, awesome.
That's the fun part about it, is like, if you have a foot in reality and a foot in fantasy and stuff, and you just let your mind roam with that, I think it's scary as hell. It's like, holy crap, that could potentially happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that was something that, like Ethan and I were talking on another show of ours about Noobs in Progress on Wednesday nights. Check us out. About what scares us, and Ethan was asking me, like, what scares you, and I was like, while I'm not a fan of and I'll admit, I'm sorry, I'm admitting, I will put on the Bible, I'm not a big fan of horrors and that sort of thing. But what scared me as a kid was real, like serial killers, like that kind of thing. Like that scared me. Like the monster stuff, I just didn't like it because it's like, that's kind of gross and don't really need to see it. Where with the serial killer bit, like that's a part that's like, okay, this shit actually happens. Like that's the stuff that terrifies me. So like, that's the kind of horror that like gets to my soul and makes me like, or thrillers and that kind of thing. Like Seven. Oh, Jesus Christ. Seven is one of the scary fucking movies on the earth.
Right.
Just saying.
Right.
Yeah. Same here, except that I went in the direction, I mean, as you can likely tell from me existing, I was scared by it and then immediately went, I have to know more.
Immediately. There was no,
I had like books on Jack the Ripper and Manson, and as a normal kid would.
Normal 5-year-old girl.
I did kind of a similar thing, but like I just can't watch. It's weird. I actually can't watch fictionalized versions. Like I can read the stories, like if the comic book My Friend Dahmer, amazing. Check that out if you can find it. I actually have an encyclopedia of serial killers, and that's how I remembered the Elizabeth Bathory thing. Like it just like I'm fascinated about reading about the real events, because it's like I was telling Ethan, and he's probably bored of me saying this over and over again, but I'm I'm fascinated by because my brain does not work like that. So I'm interested in learning about somebody whose brain does. So it's interesting.
It's just it's so foreign to me that like I can't, as someone with empathy, it is extremely difficult for me to understand how these people's minds work, and that was part of the reason why I was so interested. Like, how can you be disabled?
Right. Or
I have no excuse. except to say I don't have time for jail, so that's why I write fiction.
You write about your fantasies in pages. Right.
That's the healthy way to do it. Good on you.
And I would be offended if I wasn't on some kind of soft watch list for my Google searches. But I'm just saying, it is for fiction writing. For those who are listening, Big Brother, it's
hard to avoid. It's like, how do you get rid of a body? And it's like, no, I promise this is for fiction.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Just like the ancient poisons and things like that. The untraceables, and it's like you get FBI.
Open up.
I just did the search.
You open up FBI jokes in one episode. That's good.
Yes, it is. But I mean, even though we're talking about this kind of stuff, like for me, I told Nate this before, and I was in game chat with the founder of Nerds with Melanin, Otis, and Denzel, some other people, and I was telling them how I saw the movie Nightmare on Elm Street when I was 5, and it messed me up really, really bad because the idea of an unbeatable monster that attacks kids, that seemingly impossible thing, freaked me out. The idea of someone like John Doe, spoiler alert for 7, because it is a person, on some level I can grasp with the idea that on a good day I can still beat him in a fight. I can punch him down. I can get the best of him by running with my car. But something like an unbeatable monster, like, Freddy Krueger, is like, how do you beat that? And again, it is wildly fictional. So I get why it scares some people. But for me, that was my mentality, was that because I can't beat them, they scared me.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Like
I said, on a good day, I could punch John Doe in the face. I'd probably miss and punch myself.
That's not a metric I've ever really used necessarily, because I don't know, growing up as a woman, it's like, oh, they will always get me.
Oof. Yeah. God, that is.
I don't know. It's very interesting. Psychology is super fucking interesting, y'all.
Yeah.
Right.
And on that note,
these notes, our transitions and segues have gotten worse as the show has gone on. Man. Yes. But I guess to turn the page, to go from something that's just dark and beautiful to something that's just plain old fashioned beautiful, Ari's artwork. And for those who are watching on the stream or who will see it on YouTube, you can tell obviously how beautiful it actually is. Ariana Owner herself made these, and we established last week gradually that the character of Liz, formerly Meredith, she resembles Sophia Boutella, or I think she looks like Sophia Boutella, the quote-unquote character with the legs from Kingsman. But she's also she's been in a few other things too, obviously, like she was in The Mummy. And then the character now, Pat or Patricia, on the right, she to me resembles. She looks. Gosh, I'm trying to think of
Olivia Munn.
Do y'all have anyone you can pull? Olivia Munn? Yeah, a little bit like Olivia Munn. A little bit, not quite.
That's what I see when I look at that.
I can see that. I can see Olivia Munn. Yeah. Actually, you know what she reminds me of? She looks a little bit like I'm not sure what her name is, but in the Mulan live action movie, the main character that made that, because she's a huge star in China, but I'm not sure what her name is. But
yes,
very, very good.
I was seeing a little bit of Ming Na.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
a little bit. Just that little bit of Asian.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. Very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. And she does look like she could be, no offense, Ari, but she could eat children's hearts.
Oh,
she looks like she could not kick ass.
My goal is to make them look beautiful and dangerous. So there you go.
And they do.
Success. Yeah, I can see Ethan wants to date both of them. So
I mean, again, no kink shame. Let's not.
None
No
whatsoever.
kink shame. I
At Geek Insider, we foster relationships with those in the geek sphere so we can give our audience the insider view of entertainment, tech, and more.